Welcome into the Fantasy Addicts Fantasy Football Podcast. We are originally streaming live on Twitch.
We'll do it live!
And we will hit that record and throw it up on the YouTube for you.
Done did.
Yep.
Done did.
Also out there on the podcast, all the streaming, just everywhere you want to look.
Everywhere you want to find it.
That's where we'll be.
We're there.
All right. So today we are talking about who do you hate? All right. And Nick
many people.
Nick's compiled a list of 98 names of players that he does not care to have on his team.
Basically everybody not on my current roster.
Okay.
Yep.
Because if you liked them, they'd be on it, right?
Exactly.
I'm
glad you understand.
I do. So, first thing we need to talk about, though, there's some news. So, one of the guys who I think we're a little bit different on, you actually traded for this player in Dynasty, and he is one of the guys I don't hate, but I'm not going to have him anywhere, and that's Julio Jones. So,
not loving the Julio, huh?
Well, I've been a Ridley guy since we started the podcast back in 2020.
An owner.
Yep. I do own him in Dynasty, and called the breakout and just thought that he was going to start to overtake Julio, and you kind of saw that last year. One of the other concerns I have about Julio is just getting up there in age. So kind of the narrative on Julio, it's not necessarily that he's injury prone, but he's always banged up, always dinged up, but he plays through it. Right. So last year you finally saw him be dinged up and miss actual time. And I wonder if there's a correlation between him getting older and those things that he used to be able to play through, slowing him down and causing him to actually miss time is one of my major concerns with Julio.
I think, honestly, Greg says go Bears.
Go
Bears, indeed. I think when we're talking about Julio, like 3 or 4 years ago, the knock was he didn't score enough touchdowns, and then it was always old, and then it's, maybe he's just going to be injury prone now. Like, I don't think we have Julio quite nailed down. I'm not saying he's going to be a 17-game, player and, a wide receiver one all season. Like, I'm not necessarily buying into that right away, but like the traits are still there. He's not that old. I mean, we're still buying into Robert Woods, and we're still buying into Devontae Adams, assuming Rodgers is there. I mean, these guys are older as well. I don't necessarily think 12 months makes that much of a difference. And also, when we see Julio, when he came out, he was I think overusing the generational talent thing here, but Julio was that generational talent. He is just an elite wide receiver, truest to the term. I mean, one of the best ever. And those guys seem to last longer. Those elite guys, their bodies are just made different,
Yeah, and Julio, when you just see him out there, is a very solid, solidly built individual. He's 32 now, though, so that's, once they hit that 30 mark, that's where you start to get worried. Robert Woods, 29 right now, and even him in Dynasty, I'm just worried about kind of, people have offered to try and trade him to my team. So that age, it sticks in your mind. I definitely agree that Julio is an outlier, an athletic freak. But the big news that's going on right now is there was an interview where Julio apparently, it sounds like, may or may not have known that he didn't even know he was live. So that's something we all.
I think that's the biggest hiccup in this whole story is, he might say different things if he's not live. He could have been. Yeah, I didn't actually hear 100%. The interview. It could have been taken like kind of like, I'm out of there. You don't know if it's how serious he was when he made that statement.
Yeah, it's definitely, though, you feel like maybe you're getting a glimpse into how he really feels, whereas he would have been more reserved had he known.
I can see that side of
talking.
things as well.
So, again, the situation right now, he is on the Atlanta Falcons as it stands. However, the rumor mill is going of possible landing spots, and the one that sounds like the front runner right now is the New England Patriots, who definitely need a wide receiver.
Hopefully,
he
not
would go in and be the number one just from the start, obviously. But the big worry is Cam Newton is their quarterback, and then behind him you got Mac Jones. So Cam for wide receivers is terrible. What do you have, like 7 passing touchdowns last year?
Look at
abysmal passing numbers.
Look at his career. He's had okay receivers kind of the whole time. Kelvin Benjamin had an okay season. DJ Moore had a pretty decent season but none of those like elite guys. He just hasn't been able to sustain that a wide receiver one or wide receiver two. Really, Greg Olsen was kind of his primary target for a long time.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
But he's had talented guys. But I think just going off of last year is what would concern me. Last year, his passing numbers when he was the quarterback of the Patriots, and again, this will be his second year in the system, and it is a notoriously tough system to get a handle on. His wide receivers were not good, so maybe it jumps up. But even if it doubles, it's not good for his passing touchdowns.
No, I agree. And do we think Cam's going to be the starter?
I think Cam will start this season, and then if Mac Jones comes in, that's what you're hoping for. I think is if Julio goes there.
I'm definitely more excited if Mac Jones is there.
Agree.
I'm trying to think of other teams. So when looking at Julio's contract as well, like he is guaranteed a lot of money, and I think after June 1st, I think if the Falcons trade him, they only owe him $7 million instead of $23 million. So they're definitely going to wait until after June 1st. But I'm struggling to come up with teams that would necessarily want to trade for him.
The Titans were another one that I heard floated. They could use wide receiver help. A.J. Brown and Julio would be good for an NFL team, but they just are notoriously low passing volume. I think their Julio is more the 1B.
Right.
So a lot of people are through the roof on A.J. Brown, which is a guy who we might talk about on my list too. So again, the guys that we're talking about that we hate, they're not necessarily players that we don't want to have on a team, but they're just guys that are going too high.
I don't want them.
And they're actually being drafted. So all the guys that I talk about you'll want, you'll probably have.
So welcome in. Janu and Hunter going to be excellent blockers for a Cam.
There you go.
Oh, God.
And maybe Julio can get in there and throw us some blocks, huh?
Banjo, I think, makes a good point here. Colts may be interesting. So, I mean, as a Julio owner now, I did purchase them from Greg Nordstrom in the chat, your brother. Colts are probably...
He got the best of you, huh?
I don't think so. I'm still okay with the purchase. It didn't cost me a ton, and I still think
you got bamboozled.
You're too loud. I made the trade knowing all this was potential.
All right.
But Colts, I think I don't know how much I believe in Wentz, but I think he can probably support a wide receiver. And if Julio's there, I'm not really scared of T.Y. Hilton if Julio's on the roster.
Yeah, and the other kind of narrative is T.Y. Hilton, not necessarily the guy you want to be the number one wide receiver on a team, but if he's the number 2, all of a sudden he's pretty good, and Pittman could be the 3.
Right.
Paris Campbell, some people are hoping that he can get back into the mix, so that's the guy that's just interesting.
Right.
First couple games of the season, if he's out there and people aren't really aware of him,
they have
keeping an eye on.
I don't think Wentz is terrible. I just didn't want him for the Bears.
Wentz is in the best situation he could possibly
100%. If you want an offensive weapon to go to a team right now, I can't find a better really roster than the Colts with the stud offensive line.
Greg in the chat says he traded him to Nick because he was terrified he'd get traded to the Patriots, and here we are. Nothing is official yet, but
oh no, it's happening.
Yeah, so let's talk about good landing spots. If he goes to the Green Bay Packers and Aaron decides to come back, maybe that helps appease Aaron Rodgers.
But is that good?
Everybody, buddy. I do think it's good because you get an elite quarterback, and again, Julio walks in. It's him and Devontae Adams. It's just that team feels a lot scarier with Julio Jones there.
Sounds weird. What about like Jacksonville? I mean,
the Jaguars, they've got a pretty crowded wide receiving room right now. I don't think that they're in win now mode. That's the other thing. The Texans could use all the wide receivers they can get right now.
Nobody wants to go to the Texans.
But they also don't seem to be in like, hey, we're competing right now. They're just trying to put out the fire.
Right.
So teams that are in the running, the Bears are an interesting one that, Darnell Mooney is the kind of their number 2 guy right now. Anthony Miller has.
But would you rather have Darnell Mooney or Julio Jones?
Again, I think if the Bears, if they feel like they're going for it this year, but we got to figure out how things are going to go with Fields and all of that kind of situation.
Banjo says, does Houston have a 22 first? Seems like a thing they would do.
They have no first for the next 7 years.
Yeah,
right?
I think they traded them all away just to.
But in all reality, we'd have to look at it. I just don't think that their situation, unless all of a sudden miraculously Deshaun's whole thing cleared up and he decided he did want to play there, then maybe.
I still think there's cap issues here, and I've actually seen some people say like, no, the Falcons would have to give up something for a team to take on Julio's contract, which is kind of an interesting thought as well.
I think there are situations where the team can eat part of the contract.
Yeah, I just struggled to find a team that would, the 49ers, I don't know if that really makes sense. I don't know that the Rams have necessarily a downfield threat, which I feel like Julio could take that place of. You have Robert
Tiny
Woods.
Tutu.
Yeah, I mean, you have obviously you have Kupp and Woods there, but I still see those guys as kind of intermediate crossers, not necessarily the Julio-esque type.
Yeah,
role.
the other one I heard get floated out there is the Arizona Cardinals, so you could have AJ Green take a drink, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, just
everyone,
the Expendables, the old guys. That was another podcast that compared it to the Expendables. But.
New Orleans, they don't have any money. I mean, I don't know. I just struggle to find spots. I think he stays with the Falcons.
Yeah, that report was definitely kind of eyebrow raising. So everybody's kind of scrambling to see what.
Should we touch on Aaron Rodgers as well?
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers just doesn't show up for the optional kind of mini camp, and that's
neither does most of his team. It sounds like.
Yeah, I know. None of the wide receivers are there. They're optional. So,
Sogo says Julio basically to the Chargers, which I think is another interesting spot without Mike Williams. But I mean, I think it depends on how many targets they're going to give Eckler. I mean, I guess if you have Julio on the roster, you don't really necessarily have to force it to the running back.
Pretty good capital to do it. Herbert, he looked good. They've got Keenan, who's more of a possession guy. So Julio, again, gets a lot of yards, hasn't been the touchdown machine, but if he goes there, I don't hate it.
Jets?
The Jets they also have a lot of guys on their roster right now, so we'll see if they hold on to Crowder.
They have the capital that they could trade that, at least the Falcons would do it. Yeah.
All right, so we are going to jump in now to our main segment. Who do you hate? So in the chat, tell us.
Yeah, give the chat.
So the way that we are qualifying this is just players right now that we feel are going too high as their average draft position, and we also threw in a couple guys who we just think they're just a bust. They're a full bust. It's not going to happen. Stop trying to make fetch a thing. So
Banjo says Josh Kelly, Ty Johnson, Wayne Gallman. Which would you take a flyer on?
Here I found it. Sorry.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
There you go. Honestly, I saw a report on Reddit that said Ty Johnson is the best running back in the AFC East. Convinced me otherwise. And I mean, when you look at all the running back situations, it's rough. It is rough. But Ty Johnson's probably the one I would take the flyer on. Josh Kelly's garbage and Wayne Gallman's nothing. So probably Ty Johnson if I had to pick somebody. But
just out of that grouping, now I think Michael Carter will get the work in for the Jets.
Out of these three people.
So where is Gallman even now? Did he end up?
I think he went to the 49ers.
Oh, I don't know if he even makes the team.
I don't know. I did see Wilson. Greg's probably in shambles right now with Wilson missing 4 to 6 months.
My name is Jeff. So Jeff Wilson, he had a leg surgery. He's not coming back till November.
I think they amputated it.
But still, with them picking up Trey Sermon, and I need to apologize to Elijah Mitchell. When we were doing our last show, I believe I accidentally called him Elijah Moore multiple times, who is a wide receiver for the Jets. So. Hey, I go back and I try to catch these things.
It's okay. We probably won't mention either of their names after.
I don't know, though. Elijah Moore will go high in the rookie drafts.
That opens things up for my other three.
I'll say Josh Kelly out of those guys, actually, because I think Austin Eckler, he's just coming off an injury. He's a little bit smaller guy. If he was to go down, Josh Kelly.
I think they still have the Bellagio, though.
No, Bellagio is on the Pittsburgh Steelers now.
Is that true?
Fun fact, yeah.
That's not fun. There's nothing fun about that.
No, besides Najee, it's a little muddled.
Yeah. All right. So let's start out. Who do you hate?
Oh, let me kick it off. We're coming in hot.
We're looking just at the 2021 ADP on Fantasy Football Calculator.
Coming in hot with hot. Saquon Barkley, guy I've been talking trash about.
Just right out of the gate. So number what?
The average
1-4
draft
on here.
ADP average draft position chart that we are using right now is from Fantasy Football Calculator. It's got Saquon as the 4th pick off the board. I've made my case, but I'll make it again. Saquon coming off a big injury, missed a lot of time. The 2 games he did play last year, he didn't do well for fantasy before he got injured. Playing on the Giants, I don't think they have their stuff together. Right. As they say, and I don't like their quarterback. I don't love their offensive line. You like? So I like Saquon's talent as a football player if he's healthy. And obviously there's no other running back there, so he should get the volume. Can he hold up to it? Has he lost a step? Has he lost a little bit of that explosiveness? Does he even kind of trust that knee now? I've heard kind of analysts talking about the guys have that injury and they're coming back, and just really. A guy like him who's so shifty and explosive, just trusting that he can do those same things without having a little bit of hesitance. I think Saquon will be good. I don't want to take the chance on him at the 4th wide receiver off the board.
4th running back.
I
would agree. I mean, if I'm looking at this list, I'd rather take, JT or Zeke or, Chubb over Saquon. I just don't want to take the chance on him. I feel like there's more risk of re-injury. He hasn't been, in football in a long time now. And really, it's kind of season after season now. He even had injuries midseason the year before, and he missed some games. So, I don't know. We're seeing more of a trend of injuries from him. And, I'm not comfortable with him either.
And I think that there are still very good options that are more of a sure thing behind him as part of my reasoning.
I mean, I'm not feeling super comfortable about Alvin Kamara right now.
Alvin Kamara had a great season. He's still on a good offense, good coach. The only thing that's really changed for him is that quarterback and they're still going to find ways to manufacture touches for Alvin Kamara. I believe I want to say it's 86 like receptions he had in the last 2 seasons, and this year like he had just he's just always around that mid 80s reception mark, which is huge. He finds the end zone. He's very talented. Like his talent, he is healthy. So all good signs for Alvin.
I would think that probably could hold up with Winston. I don't see that being too.
I think even with Taysom, they could. Again, it looked bad the first couple of games, but one of those games was the game that Denver had their wide receiver playing quarterback, so they didn't need to. Like even with Taysom, I still think he will be, in that top 12 range pretty easily.
Soto says, I really like Mixon this year. He's going to have more touches as a receiver. I have a feeling we're going to get to Mixon.
Hate it.
We're going to get to Mixon. I think first on my call sheet here is George Kittle going at the 20th pick overall. First of all, I don't like taking tight end that early unless it's Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey is really the only person we're talking about at this number. If you don't get one of the top 3, Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, I mean, you might as well just wait till the later rounds. And, I think I'd rather have Waller over Kittle at this point just because Kittle is also super injury prone. I don't trust the quarterback situation there. I don't trust, honestly, the 49ers field. I just think we're going to have another tough season for Kittle as far as, games played. Over under 9 games played for Kittle this year.
Man, I'll take the over. I think that Kittle, I think you can take the shot here, and if he is healthy, it pays off. Then my main concern as well is the health. I'm going to jump back up to the top, though, because we got another guy.
One more thing. I mean, at George Kittle, we got Calvin Ridley. We've got, DK Metcalf. There's plenty of other good players around here that you can take.
Around that range, Kittle. Yeah. I would probably go the wide receiver, and Kittle has to come back and play all the games and produce, as he did 2 years ago before the injury.
All right.
Return
your turn. Who do you hate?
Ezekiel Elliott. So running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Even though Dak's coming back, Zeke I'll make my case again. At the end of last year when I was watching him play, he just didn't look good. He didn't look like the same old Zeke. He is still fairly young, but he's got tread on the tires. And people are like, the line was banged up. That's why he was bad. However, the guy right behind him, Tony Pollard, came in and had a very good game behind that same line. So I just think that Zeke, with these guys, we're trying to spot where they're slowing down. We're trying to spot where they lose a step. And with Zeke, I saw evidence that it may be, that he's not the same guy.
I don't think you could be more wrong on a player.
Tell him why. Tell him why.
The reason is kind of like you mentioned before. Zeke, I think 100% he checked out towards the middle of the season. When he realized what was happening with the roster.
They were still in the playoff run. They were in the hunt all the way till the end.
It doesn't matter. He knew where the season was headed. I'm pretty sure he just checked out. He was definitely banged up. And the offensive line was in shambles last year. Just in shambles.
Tony ran well.
And the other teams were not scared of Andy Dalton throwing the ball. So they just stacked the box and, just pummeled them all day. When Pollard's in there, they think he's going to throw potentially, and Pollard can get a couple touches and fresh legs. But I think with Dak Prescott in the lineup, it completely changes the whole offense. Zeke will be a top 5 running back. No fear.
Ooh, top 5. I think it's bold.
No fear. No fear.
Got fear.
I'd put money on it. Sogo, who do you think will be the tight end 1 in Seattle? It doesn't matter.
I disagree. I think the tight ends in Seattle have been relevant year in and year out. And
who was a starting caliber tight end?
There was time Will Dissly was good before he got hurt every year for the past 5 years.
More than a 3 or 4 game
Greg
stretch.
Olsen had good games. Again, they might not be their weekly starter. They're not going to be above the Kittle, Waller, but they're guys that should be rostered. I think it's Everett. So. Everett coming from the Rams.
I don't trust the passing offense on that team or the rushing offense, to be honest.
They use their tight ends.
They do, but I don't think it's to a point where you can trust them enough to throw them in the roster. So I'm still fading the Seattle tight end situation right now. All right, who do we hate? You want to talk about your boy? You kind of mentioned it before, but AJ Brown. How do you feel about AJ Brown?
AJ Brown, I like AJ Brown as a player. He is a monster of a man. He gets into the end zone. He finds it. I just don't like how high he's going. A lot of the analysts, they see that Corey Davis is out of town, and they just think, they also got rid of Jonnu. So they've lost these other offensive receiving pieces that they use pretty heavily. So they just have put all those targets onto AJ Brown. And again, I believe he's a very talented guy, but that team wants to run. They're not a high-passing offense. They're not going to be able to just throw him every single ball like people are projecting. I watched him because I had him on a team last year, and he would go down and look like he was going out of the game, and he'd Frankenstein and just and he'd come back and he'd play through the game. He just had, I believe, surgeries on both legs in the offseason. I think he's going to be very good. I don't think he's going to return the value as where he's getting drafted is all.
The thing about A.J. Brown's numbers is when you really look into him, it's kind of like the Miles Sanders effect too, where it's, you look at the end of the game, you're like, oh, that's a pretty good result. And then he has like a 40-yard touchdown mix in there or a 50-yard touchdown mix in there. Those are the hardest things to transcribe one year to the next is the long touchdown numbers.
Yeah, he is a guy that I think is an outlier in that department, though. There's some guys that just have big games and they just happen to get the touchdowns. I think he is a guy whose efficiency is going to be high, partially because of that offense. They did lose their offensive coordinator who goes to the Falcons.
They lost a lot of pieces. They lost offensive linemen.
It's going to look different.
They lost a lot.
I do like Josh Reynolds, who's going in there. I think he can be a good, just a good, decent wide receiver too on that team.
I think the Titans are in for a rude awakening, and I think the Titans could be in some trouble this year.
Yeah, their draft, they added to their defense, so I hope that their defense will be a little bit better. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that can go wrong. I do have concerns about his health, even though he's a monster of a man, but he's getting beat on, and if they try and use him with that kind of volume.
All right, at 3-2, you want to know who I hate?
Who do you hate?
James Robinson.
James Robinson. All right, I agree.
But why? If you take James Robinson at 3-2, you have no chance of winning the championship this year. I'm saying it right now. You lose in the draft if you take James Robinson at 3-2.
So James Robinson is interesting. So I was looking at the average draft positions across different kind of sites that had it. And he is one that has the widest variance of as high as the 30-ish pick and as low as like the 75th pick. So there are people that are still making up their minds that some people still think, oh no, he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. And there are other people like us who believe he might not see the field at all. He'll be out there a couple times.
Here's our advice here. Just don't take James Robinson.
Strongly agree.
The thing about James Robinson is it's not even worth the risk. Even if you're like, I think he carves out a role, it's still not worth it where people are taking him, because people are just making a mistake. They're like, oh no, I missed out on, I took wide receiver with my first and second pick, and now I got to take a running back, and it's, James Robinson or, J.K. Dobbins or C.H. Like, you're going to have a much better time with J.K. Dobbins or C.H. on your roster
100%.
than James freaking Robinson.
Yeah, and people, again, if they're not paying attention, might look at his numbers from last year and be like, oh, he actually was really good last year. Not going to happen.
Let your league taco take James Robinson.
Yes.
100%. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So my pick, there's a stretch of guys that I actually like pretty well. Darren Waller, I think that just the start of the season for the Raiders, they face a lot of tough defenses. And I don't think they're a competitive team this year. I think if they start off poorly and lose a lot of games, they may start kind of dialing back Waller and Josh Jacobs just because it's like, these are our young guys. This is like basically the heart and soul of our offense. Like, we're not going anywhere this year, so let's not give them a gigantic workload and wear them out.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs only, I think, has another year on his rookie contract after this one. I don't think they're have any fear of overusing him. They're not going to re-sign him anyway.
All right, and that's even fair. But Waller, they definitely, they need him.
Your brother is just supporting your Josh Jacobs case, but I think it's wrong.
So Josh Jacobs is farther down the list, so at least people are starting to come around. Let's just fast forward to Josh Jacobs.
Well, first, 1 second. Banjo says, how high would you take ETN? And Sogo says, think ETN takes RB1 over Robinson.
100%, I feel that way. A lot of the drafts I've been doing now have him going in the lower, like third, fourth round. I'd take him higher than that. I'd take him right after probably right after like Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson. I'd take him before Swift, before Mixon, before Robinson, before Jacobs. I do like Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who are a little lower on this list.
I think,
I'd put them up higher.
I think early third is kind of like
I'd take him before Miles Sanders.
Dave Montgomery, Chris Carson, CH. Like, I'd still rather have ETN over some of these guys.
I might put him right around Montgomery and Carson.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere around the turn of the second and third round.
Yeah, so we'll go to Josh Jacobs. Where do they have him going on here? They've got him at the
pretty much the
start of the third round. So the 3-2, the 29th guy. And I've got, again, right behind him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins. I'd like to have Montgomery over him. I know you like Jacobs over Montgomery. Is that correct?
I like Jacobs just because of, the total opportunity.
Yeah, I think that Montgomery's going to have similar opportunity, and I think that the team is in a better spot. They added a good offensive lineman who I think will help out. But
he's a right tackle playing left tackle.
So I'll make it brief because in the last 7 episodes, all I've done is spew hate about Josh Jacobs. They've lost offensive line pieces. Their offensive line is weaker than last year. I don't think their offense is very good. Their defense is bad, so they're going to be playing from behind, so they won't be able to just run it out. They haven't been using him in the passing game, and they have a tough starting strength of schedule. Those are just a handful of reasons why I'm out on Josh Jacobs. The reason to buy is if he dips.
Here's the thing. The offensive line question is kind of a moot point. It doesn't even matter. You want to know why? Because the offensive line was terrible last year. So if you're getting rid of all your terrible offensive linemen, it doesn't matter who you replace them with. I mean, okay, the new guys come in and they're terrible as well. So what? You're in the same spot you were. So it's not like we're replacing all pro linemen with, crap linemen. It's just they're already bad and they're still going to be bad. I mean, it's really no change from what he's had, blocking for him the last 2 years. So I'm not really worried about the offensive line questions. And again, we don't watch a lot of Raiders football, and they're not really a fun team to watch because all they do is throw it to Waller all the time and run it with Josh Jacobs. But if he gets 30 touches a game, he's going to be a RB1.
Oh, which reminds me of the one other reason they signed Kenyon Drake, and I believe that he's going to take away some of that volume that he's had in the previous years. Nick doesn't believe so, but I think that it's going to happen.
Drake gets no more than 10% of the touches.
All right.
Okay, who's next?
So let's see. Let's go down the list here.
Do you know what? I'm not even going to flame Michael Thomas on this list.
So Michael Thomas has fallen. He's
almost at a bye now.
No, the 3-2, and he still should be far and away the wide receiver 1 on that team. We'll see what the quarterback situation is. I like him a lot more with Jameis Winston because I think they'll air it out more.
I'm just straight comping him to Mike Evans. Jameis Winston with Mike Evans, Jameis Winston with Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is still going to be a top 12 wide receiver. I didn't like Michael Thomas as the number 1 or 2 wide receiver.
Makes sense.
But top 12, I'm fine with it. And at the middle of the third,
I had a similar thought. If you could go running back, Michael Thomas is your number 1 wide receiver, that team will look good on paper, at least at the start of the year. Right. We'll see if Michael has a bounce back. He was very talented just 2 years ago, and how quickly we forget.
Yeah, all right. He was the number 1 wide receiver off the board 2 years ago. I mean, and now he is, let's see if it says what wide receiver he is. He's down here ways. So he is wide receiver number 6, I think. Either way. Too low.
Kenyon Drake's going to be Josh Jacobs' water boy. I don't know, man. Agree. They signed him. They paid him. I don't know that you pay him to be a water boy.
Do you know who I hate? Chris Carson.
All right.
Over under 8.5 games played for Chris Carson.
I'll go over for Chris Carson. I want to say he missed 4 games last year.
I'm just out. Chris Carson, he is dead to me. Do you have that?
Wrong.
Chris Carson, I think, he's a good running back when he's on the field. He gets banged up, he misses some time, but that offense, they want to run the ball. I think he's far and away the best running back. Would you grant that he is the best running back on their roster right
100%.
now? Okay.
But here's the thing. Look at the Seattle Seahawks the last 2 or 3 years now. Really good in the first half, just god awful in the second half, right?
That is
so if we mix in
true.
If we kind of mix in 17 games the first, let's say 9 or 10 games, they're going to be good Seahawks, right? Of those 10 games, he's probably going to miss 3 of them because he gets hurt all the time. So are you going to draft 7 games worth of decent Chris Carson at the back end of the third? I don't know. I'd rather have Terry McLaurin or Allen Robinson or one of these other guys going off the board, Kareem Hunt even.
So to kind of agree with your point, actually, last year in half PPR, he finished as the running back 18 in our league. So guys that finished in front of him, Ronald Jones, Mike Davis, Nyami Hines, Kenyon Drake, he didn't produce elite numbers last year, and I think he is starting to get to that age where he's the cliff. I liked Chris Carson last year, and I don't hate having him on a team. If I could have him as my second or third running back,
he'd have to fall another full round and a half or 2.
Okay, I'm actually kind of on board with you. I think that Chris Carson he should be rostered, will be decent definitely usable for certain games, but I have my trepidation about trying to shoe him in like shoehorn him into my second wide receiver. If I could get him as my third or a depth piece, I'd be psyched. But that's not where he's going.
Greg,
right now.
we're past Jacobs. We already decided. I already decided you're wrong. Drake's not going to get any more touches than Washington. If Drake was that good, another team would have signed him as their starting running back, and they didn't because he's garbage. All right. No team wants Kenny and Drake for more than a half a season. That's really, I think he plays 10 games per season.
Just long enough to ruin Josh Jacobs this year.
All right, who's next on your hate list?
So the next kind of group of guys we've got here, I don't mind taking these wide receivers.
Honestly, there's a couple of value picks here.
Yeah, no, I like Terry McLaurin. I like Mike Evans. He's had just 1,000-yard season. I think he's had like 6,000-yard seasons in a row.
7 in a row to start his career.
See, that's amazing.
From his rookie season on, 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons.
He has some hamstring issues, and he had some short touchdowns that kind of boosted.
I got a question for you.
That's a lot of yards.
How many career games has Mike Evans missed?
And you're not counting he starts and gets injured and goes out.
Right, career.
How many seasons has he played? 6, 7, 10.
1.
No way.
Yeah,
that can't be right. That feels
it's either 1 or 3, and I'm almost 100% sure it's 1.
That sounds. I feel like he missed 10 games last year, but
he didn't miss any games last year.
He aggravates things and just pulls out early. But
look it up. I'm
kind of the James Conner maneuver where you start him and then he crushes you.
You keep talking about who you hate.
All right, so we haven't talked about any quarterbacks that we hate. And honestly, going down the list, there are a lot of quarterbacks that I like this season. So that's another good reason to kind of fade the quarterback position. I have just Russell Wilson is always a mixed bag where if you can get the right half of the season.
Carson. Yeah.
But he's going ahead of some guys I'd definitely rather have. The rookies, I think you could maybe push them up a little bit. I think that there's some good, talented rookies that are going to rush. I'm always out on Cam Newton. He's going higher. I would never draft Cam as my quarterback. The only thing I would maybe do is stream him against the 32nd team as far as giving up rushing touchdowns to the quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, so he missed the last 2 games of 2019 with a hamstring injury, and he missed 1 game in 2015 with a hamstring injury. And that's it.
There you go.
7 years, 3 games missed.
Injury prone. You heard it here.
No.
Hamstrings.
No.
Hamstrings
Greg
made
says,
of
I feel like I remember
string.
getting suspended once. Nope. He's just always out there catching balls.
That's how he gets that 1,000-yard season.
And Mike Evans is good for your roster because he is boom bust, which sounds like not a good thing. But in today's fantasy world, you need Mike Evans on your roster because he's going to win you weeks. He's not going to lose you weeks because he'll have a couple, 5, 6, 7 point weeks where he's not goosing you. But he's got those 30, 40 point games that'll win you weeks.
Yeah, the consistency, it depends on how your roster is set up. So if you've got, you don't want to necessarily build a team with all those boom bust guys. But, yeah, if they hit at the right time, you can play the matchups a little bit.
All right, who were you hating on?
All right, so I almost wanted to hate Myles Gaskin, but I'm starting to come around to thinking that where he's going, he might be at a nice spot. I don't know if we have
enough information on that spot yet. Yeah. I still don't feel comfortable with Gaskin as my wide receiver.
Somebody else.
Do you know who I hate? Raheem Mostert.
Oh, okay. I don't hate the Mostert, at least not for this year.
Undrafted free agent, 29 years old, super injury prone.
The injury prone is real.
And there's something with the field or the training staff that's just screwy in San Fran. So I think Trey Sermon comes in, takes his job after maybe 2 games. And I say that because it might be 1 game because Mostert will probably just go out in the first quarter.
Yeah, and we did get word now that Jeff is out. So that
Jeff Wilson's out. Yeah.
It'll be
one less guy to worry about.
But they have classically used a number of running backs.
Again, Jeff Wilson, undrafted free agent. All they've been using is undrafted free agents. And again, they just don't have the NFL bodies that drafted players have.
I don't know if I buy that because drafted players get injured as well.
100%, but not at the clip that these guys
I'd have to see some data on it. We'll take some data.
Man. Look at
Reddit.
If we look through Mostert's injury history, there'd be a whole second page. He's been out. He's played 8 quarters of football in the last 2 seasons, and he's still getting all the love. I don't get it.
Yeah, but it's one of those. He's going late enough that if he can be healthy and be the starting running back, the starting running back for the 49ers has very
Who
good
was
value.
who was the leading rusher for the 49ers last year?
Was it Jeff?
Jeff Wilson.
All right.
Was 600 yards.
All right.
Was 600
Yeah.
yards. I mean,
it
it's
was
not
a
even,
carousel.
How do you start somebody that, only gets 600 yards? Mostert didn't even get, and he's being drafted in the 4th round. Hard pass.
All right.
Hard pass. Over Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb. You want Raheem Mostert or CeeDee Lamb?
I want CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. You want Raheem Mostert or Kareem Hunt?
This would be these are the running backs you're taking if you went wide receiver and you got those elite wide receivers and now you're trying to backfill your
Right, but
running
I'd rather
backs.
have Myles Gaskin. I'd rather have Melvin Gordon. I'd rather have Trey Sermon way later on.
Skipped over my boy Ronald Jones.
Najee Harris is down here in the 6th round.
Najee's going to go in the 2nd round by the time the drafts are going.
I mean, listen, I'm just saying there's so many other pieces I'd rather have than freaking Raheem Mostert. Just don't draft him.
We got some Gaskin love in the chat.
Yeah, from Greg. I don't trust anything that Greg says anymore. You know who I hate?
He won one of our leagues last year.
Nordstrom's. So. That's who I hate.
Hey, we can't be wrong all the time.
You'd be surprised.
We can't cancel Quidditch.
Gaskin can have more carry percentage. So I think Gaskin is probably going to be their starting running back to start the season.
It's how it looks right now. There's Ahmed there, so Salvin Ahmed's still on the team. They did sign Malcolm Brown, who will, I assume, take over the role, hopefully a little bit more extended than what they gave to his name, the former Bears quarterback who's now on the Eagles, Jordan Howard. So Jordan Howard, he was punching in touchdowns from the 2. That'd be his only thing he did the whole game.
Yeah.
And I think
3 yards,
Brown
2 touchdowns.
Malcolm Brown could be that, so he could have some touchdown upside.
Greg's rubbing in that he won the championship over me, but also I had second half Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. So
there you go.
I basically didn't have my two best players.
Whose fault is that?
It's mine.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know. We had 1 year of proof, and now I have 2 years. Now I know I don't want either of those guys. There could be a case to be made to hate DK Metcalf. Honestly.
You blew it! I saw that. I looked back at his numbers. He has very good numbers. He's the number 1 wide receiver on that team. I don't think they're going to run as efficiently this year. Their defense didn't help out a lot in the draft, so I think they're going to need to air it out. There are Lockett games and there are DK games.
I can't push Mike Evans and fade DK Metcalf when basically they're kind of doing the same thing. Big weeks, bad weeks, and sometimes forgot.
I looked back, though, because I felt the same way, and I looked back, and he had less bad weeks than I thought he did.
And his bad weeks aren't like...
However, while we're talking about DK, another guy on the list that I will fade is Tyler Lockett. So Tyler Lockett had some huge booms, but he had a lot of busts. He had a very inconsistent year. Just those games when he disappeared would really hurt you. So a guy when you can't predict if it's going to be, his day, he's definitely DK seems to be the number 1. That was Russell's first target. And then Lockett was just, they take some shots, and if you didn't catch that ball, you were in trouble.
You want to know the situation you use Lockett
I hate
in?
Lockett.
When you're playing against somebody who's got a bunch of guys going in the Thursday night game, and you're down by like 30 points because their running back went off. Like, that's when you throw Lockett in there and hope it's one of those 3 touchdown games. Because he'll have 3 or 4 multi-touchdown games during the year, but you don't know when they are. Not that you can... I mean, he's probably still an okay...
Yeah, take him too high to be that. There are other guys like that you can take.
Agree. 100% agree.
All right, so next question. DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson for wide receiver 1 at the Panthers? I think it's DJ Moore. I think he's definitely the number 1. And Robbie Anderson, much like last year, getting slept on. He's going lower than he should in drafts. They've got a soft start of the schedule. He's going to be relevant.
Robbie Anderson is the cheap Lockett that you can take later.
Yeah, and he wasn't even he was more at the Jets that touchdown or bust guy. Last year he actually got really involved with the Panthers. Their quarterback situation.
Well, because the Panthers weren't down 30 like the Jets were.
It's worth noting that Sam Darnold was on the team with Robbie Anderson the year before last, so they have a little bit of chemistry. So maybe Robbie to get started. Maybe there's a little bit of comfort there. I think that Robbie definitely is a guy who's going to, like last year, kind of overproduce where he's getting taken right now, especially at the start of the year. He might be a guy who has a good start, and then you kind of trade him off.
Do you know who I hate? Ronald Jones.
I have Ronald Jones, and I am actively shopping him in Dynasty. I don't hate Ronald Jones, but I don't love Ronald Jones.
You can't feel comfortable about rolling Ronald Jones out there.
Ronald Jones isn't the running back you want. He's the running back you need.
And you know what thing? I don't think Ronald Jones is that bad of a running back.
No, he's a great runner.
That's not my fear. My fear is his usage. They just don't use him for what you need out of a bell cow running back.
There's just been time after time where it's like, all right, now's the time. It's happening. And that's beautiful.
And then he fumbles.
Or he breaks a finger, or he gets COVID. Like, it's like, all right, Arians is finally starting to trust him. And then he does something, and he Ronald Joneses it up. And it's like, Ronald, we were so close. The breakout was here.
Oh, man.
So there's a certain level of, like, possible built-in upside with Ronald Jones where if he finally does put it together and not screw it up, like, if he can really take over that backfield, it's a valuable backfield. Their offense is going to be good. They've returned all their starters from last year, so they should have good continuity. Leonard Fournette, he looked good in the playoffs, but he didn't really wow you during the regular season. The guys that they brought in aren't going to push him for that, first couple down back work. It's going to be more the Gio Bernard coming in for a change of pace, getting a couple of receptions. I think Ronald Jones will have good volume. When he did run the ball, he had good yards per carry. I want to say it was like in the 5.6 range, it's good.
Anything really over 4.
He had a lot of games where I think he's also Bruce Arians. This is just my perception. Is he just hates rookies. Keyshawn Vaughn got on the field none. He did say that he thinks he's going to get Keyshawn in. That's probably what you're about to say, that he's going to get him involved.
I honestly, I just don't feel comfortable drafting him and rolling him out there week after week as a reliable asset.
No, he is a good guy that when your running back one goes down, maybe you can trade for him because people don't value him as highly.
Ronald Jones' value just also is. I like to look at guys as also trade assets. Okay, even if I'm drafting a name that may not pan out, I can still trade that name away for value and try and package something to get a better piece. Nobody's taking Ronald Jones.
So Ronald Jones right now in Dynasty is rated at a late first round, which is higher than I would even consider him, and I have him on my team. I have shopped him a little bit, and there's some interest. And I think the other appealing piece of Ronald Jones is that we may not have seen the full ceiling yet, and people can acquire him. He is a guy you can trade for and not give up the world for. And if you need a running back, he's going to play on that team. He's going to get time. He should get the goal line work.
If you're desperate for running back in Dynasty, you could do worse than Ronald Jones.
That should be Ronald Jones's tagline is Ronald Jones, you could do worse. 100%. I completely agree with that.
Oh, man. All right. I think I have your next guy and my next guy pretty much all on the same page.
So let's just double touch on Deshaun Watson. So he's on this list going off in the 7th round. I would not take Deshaun that high. If you could take him at the last pick of your draft and just throw him on a bench and see what happens, maybe. But
yeah, I mean, I agree. Not at this point when you can still get, Claypool, Shark. I don't even want to say his name. Tyler Boyd. I mean, there's a few guys that you can get here, but I see Odell Beckham sitting here at the early 6th round.
Odell Beckham, I just hate as a player in general for years.
I figured.
And he's not. But where he's going though, if you can get him with your 6th pick, like I get taking the chance there. Odell is a guy that I don't hate you if you take him with your 6th pick. I'm just not going to take him. Coming off an injury, never seemed to really mesh with the Browns' offense and with Baker. But I don't know, man. People still believe in the talent, even though you haven't seen it the last couple of years. And maybe the Baker gets in there, Andy.
Big Mama's handing out biscuits, baby!
Passes out the biscuits.
I think he's honestly low enough where I might take the shot on him. If I went heavy running back early and now I'm like stuck with, let's see, give me a situation here where I took...
So the guys that are right around him, T. Higgins and like Claypool, those are guys that I'd probably take the chance on over him.
Yeah, I have a feeling that those guys are probably going to go a little bit earlier. But let's say I took Derrick Henry in the 1st, and I took, I don't know, Cam Akers in the 2nd, and the 3rd I got, probably another running back. I took Joe Mixon, right? Now with wide receivers, I'm stuck with Mike Evans and somebody else. Like, I think Odell's an okay compliment as a flex wide receiver, especially if I can get, CD Lamb.
Thielen's going pretty low in a lot of drafts. I still like Thielen's value. He had a lot of touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 1 through a good chunk of the year last year.
I think that's fair. I'm not completely out on OBJ just yet, but definitely don't feel good about it.
So another wide receiver, if we go just down the list a little bit more, at the 6'12", the 74th pick off the board, Tyler Boyd, a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Kind of an interesting one, right?
So Tyler Boyd, if you watch the show, my tag for Tyler Boyd was Tyler Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd all the time. And now I don't like Tyler Boyd because Jamar Chase comes in and just takes a hammer to his volume and to his value and smashes it into a million little pieces.
Does it though?
Yes.
Again, AJ Green's vacating over 100 targets.
Yeah.
So Tyler Boyd can have the same season he had last year. So can T. Higgins, and Chase can take over those 100-plus targets.
I think Higgins takes a step forward. I think Chase, they throw the ball to, and I think that Tyler Boyd is the third wide receiver on a team. The volume was good, but
even if Boyd gets 90 targets, he's still going to be fantasy relevant.
Michael Gallup or Tyler Boyd?
Honestly, Tyler Boyd.
Okay, because they're the same guy. And I don't really want either of them. In Dynasty, I'd rather have Gallup because I think his situation could change.
Tyler
sooner.
Boyd's the Ronald Jones of wide receivers. You could do worse.
You could do worse. He'll be on a team. Someone will have him. He might be a guy you can use in a pinch. If one of those other guys gets injured, I like Tyler Boyd again. But until then, I don't like Tyler Boyd.
It is the Bengals, so you're almost guaranteed one of them is going to get hurt.
Another one on the list, a quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Some people are trying to pump him up that he's going to be the guy. We have a no Eagles policy. He will run the ball, so that's nice, but I don't think he's a great passer of the ball.
Why would you risk? Okay, Jalen Hurts, right? Going around Jalen Hurts, you got Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenyon Drake, Deebo Samuel, Hunter Henry. Like, I'd rather have most of these guys over Jalen Hurts when I can get Joe Burrow after him. I can get Stafford, Tannett. Like, there's so many. It's just ridiculous to take Jalen Hurts here.
No. Hard pass. Hard pass.
I'll agree.
Does Jalen Hurts have a better chance of finishing quarterback number 5 or 20?
Like 20 would be, I think, 20.
100%.
If that question. Again, I don't think he's touching 5, but again, with his rushing upside, I think that, those quarterbacks they'll run the ball. They have kind of that little built-in cushion. Their floor is higher, but I don't know if he's an elite runner. He's definitely not Lamar Jackson. He's not Mike Vick. He can run, but still, I think that even his ability to rush the ball,
do you know what's valuable in
might
fantasy?
be inflated
Touchdowns.
by his small sample size last
Especially
year.
in our leagues, you have 6-point touchdowns. Like, the 6-point touchdowns still outweigh the rushing totals. That's why you don't see Lamar Jackson as the number 1 overall or quarterback taken every year, because Patrick Mahomes throws 5 touchdowns a game.
Their wide receiver core is suspect, and they just drafted Smith, but there's some bust potential there.
I'm just not buying into the Eagles yet.
So let me talk about another Eagle while we're bashing the Eagles. Dallas Goedert. So we haven't talked about a lot of tight ends that we're concerned about, but he's getting pushed up to that tight end 6 in some leagues. And as of right now, Zach Ertz is still there. I like him more if Zach Ertz takes off, but still, I don't think that Eagles offense is going to be great. We still don't know what we're getting exactly with Hurts. So just Philadelphia on a whole, I think that no Eagles policy holds true.
Eagle!
I'm fading all the Eagles. I don't want him. If Goddard falls and you can take him way late, fine. I
think he's a fine dynasty purchase, but I don't want him in redraft.
No,
there are a number of guys going after him that I would gladly take.
100%.
So while we're on tight ends, I think I saw him go by, but
Grunk.
I'm going to put 2 together, and I'm going to say Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. While either of the others is still playing on the field, I don't want the either. That's what I'm. Let's see. While one is on the field, I don't want the other.
I don't want either of them.
Okay, either, other, or
regardless if they're on the field or not.
If one goes down, then I'm interested.
I'm still not interested.
I think that especially if they don't get Julio and they just are a dink-dunk offense, and those are kind of become the first target.
There's a chance if Cam Newton plays 17 games, he throws for under 3,000 yards.
But all of them to the tight ends, right?
No, not all of them.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It's bad. How about this? Jarvis Landry going over after OBJ. Does that?
So this is the hate show, and I don't hate that. I like that as a value.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that one as well.
The number 1 wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns because Odell has 0 heart.
Do you know who I hate? Brandon Cooks.
Disagree.
That's who I hate.
At that pick, if you can get him as your 8th, the number 1 wide receiver on his team, and the only good guy on that team, counting every position, defense and offense.
Again, he's still
consistently puts up 1,000-yard seasons.
I can't put it any more simply than he's 1 bonk away from being out of the NFL.
Yeah, you said that for the past 2 years though, and he finished
1 year.
Great last year.
Did he finish great?
Yeah, he actually did finish very high.
But he also
as he always does. I've been actually listening to podcasts where people are going through the actual stat lines of Cooks. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but just his yardage every year, even when he changes quarterbacks, like his just consistent
impressive.
fantasy finishes.
I think he's been like a wide receiver 1 on like 5 different teams.
He
or some
might
ridiculous
be
stat.
the most disrespected wide receiver in the NFL. Like he's kind of in that Robert Woods vein
Because they know he could die
but
on the field.
he's got more boom potential. Until he does, I'll ride that bike till the wheels fall off.
If he was on a different team, I'm still buying in, but he's not.
Brandon Cooks was the wide receiver 16 last year. So
I'm not saying he's terrible, but also he had Deshaun Watson, who was the highest passing yardage quarterback in the league last year. So he's not going to have that this year.
So he finished ahead of Amari Cooper, Marvin Jones, Claypool, Juju, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, like Robbie Anderson.
Right, but here's the thing. There's going to be probably 1,700 less yards passing for the Texans this year. Like, Deshaun Watson threw for 4,700 yards last year.
Yeah, I still think, Tyrod Taylor, not an elite quarterback, but he's played in the NFL. He's an NFL quarterback. They're going to be playing from behind. He's the only guy to throw it to. So I actually like Brandon Cooks'
Until they
value.
puncture his lung again.
Again, if you can get him as a depth piece on your bench, I think that he could definitely return the value.
Not a fan. Do you know who also I hate? Laviska Shenault.
Not the Warrior. Why do you hate Laviska?
Travis Etienne is going to take some passing work away from
Do you
him.
see what you get when you mess with the Warrior?
Oh. No, not the
100%.
Laviska hate.
100%.
Oh, man.
He's done.
So I like Laviska as a player, and again, he's a football player. He's a physical guy, but
He's still a gadget
it's just
guy.
a crowded, you don't know what anybody's going to be offense right now.
Right.
New coach, new quarterback, everything's different. They should be more efficient on offense. They should, get more yards, have sustained drives better, get more touchdowns, which isn't saying a lot because they were like,
But here when you look at it,
offenses.
granted, okay, there's some rookies that'll climb the board, but Laviska Shenault or Jamar Chase? Because
I'll
Jamar Chase
take
is
Jamar.
going around and a
Jamar,
half
all
later.
the rookies as of this list are just too low because people haven't kind
I
of
would
fully
agree.
got the grasp on them.
Let's see here. Neither can live while the other survive.
Yeah.
Nick's
That's
afraid
right, Ed.
Tebow's going to steal all his touchdowns. Tebow won't get on the field. Cole
Come on, Tebow.
Cole Beasley or Laviska Shenault?
Man, Cole's getting up there, but he had a very good year last year. He's a very usable piece.
And John Brown's gone.
take Laviska because I like him more, but Cole Beasley will have the better finish.
Antonio Brown or
Antonio Brown.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, Corey Davis.
Corey Davis is another guy who's going low. I think that, if he can be the number one wide receiver on that team, new
Here's the
quarterback.
thing. There's a lot of people after. I'd take pretty much any of these guys. Antonio Brown, Jamar Chase, Corey Davis, Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel. I would take all those guys over Laviska Shenault. I might take Marvin Jones over Laviska
Yeah,
Shenault.
I agree. Same team. So Marvin, they brought him in. They want to use him.
Honestly, I'd probably take Devonta Smith over Laviska
Not Mike
Shenault.
Williams.
Not Mike Williams.
Oh, Mike, if he could stay healthy, I like Mike Williams, but he's always hurt.
Jalen Waddle, I'd take over him.
No, 100%. There are a lot of guys on this list.
Darnell Mooney. I mean, I'd take Darnell Mooney over
Now
Laviska
we're getting
Shenault.
close. Now maybe I take the shot on
If Fields is the quarterback and we're buying into Fields, Darnell Mooney will be semi-valuable.
just
I take Tebow over Shenault. There you go, Sogo. He's on the right path
all right,
now.
all right.
He's on the right path
all right.
now.
Well, Laviska, I hope you prove them all wrong.
All right, I found your next guy.
Oh, Tariq Cohen. Cohen is the worst.
Cohen sucked.
I just have that drop on like every page just so I can find it quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just wish he wasn't on the team so that Damian Williams could have some passing work and be more
I get
efficient
it.
with it.
I get it.
He's just a zippy little guy that runs the wrong direction.
I
Never
think
helped.
I have a semi-surprising one for you.
All right.
Do you know who I hate?
Who do you
Kyle Pitts.
All right. I think I know the reason why, but tell the people.
Again, I think we've been focusing more on Dynasty lately, and he's getting just hype on hype on hype. Now with the Julio rumors, he's getting hyped even more, and people are going to be very disappointed because Kyle Pitts is only going to grow and hype as we get throughout the year. I bet Kyle Pitts I bet he gets drafted before Darren Waller by the time we get to the draft.
I don't know if that'll be the case. I think maybe right after, though. He could be the fourth or fifth guy off the board.
I think he's definitely the fourth guy. I bet people for sure take him over Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson's going to take a step forward this
Hawkinson
year.
will be good. I think Hawkinson. A lot of people are hyped on Hawkinson.
But
this year.
I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to be a top 5 tight end right away. Here's the thing. Between, as we know, tight end 5 and tight end 15, there's only like 2 points a week difference. Like it's menial.
So I will say if Julio's on the team, I feel the same. I think he's going too high. If Julio gets traded away, I think he could easily be the second wide receiver on that team. He got drafted with the 4th pick, and I'm actually then in on him and probably right around that after Waller.
We might have to start looking at Russell Gage too if Julio leaves.
He is rostered in our Dynasty League. I did take a glance at it. Zacchaeus is out there, the wee little man. But, man.
Russell Gage had a sneaky good season last year.
Russell Gage has been a what was the guy on the Seahawks that just recently got moved? Was it Mike Davis? It's not Mike Davis. It's a similar name.
Who, the receiver?
Yeah, so he was Seattle Seahawks. He was kind of
David Moore.
David Moore. So he reminds me of David Moore, just a guy who's out there. He's a good, solid player who helps that team. But he just was, chronically the 3rd wide receiver on the team. So if he all of a sudden becomes the 2nd read, I still think he'll be the 3rd behind Pitts. But
Russell Gage had 109 targets and almost 800 yards. I mean,
it's a usable piece. He should be rostered.
And here's the thing:
take him late in round.
This is in about like almost 12 games of work because there's several games where he wasn't on the field very much at all. He started 8 games. So really, if you take 8 games plus a couple for that's a pretty good points per game spread there. I might be a little bit more in on Russell Gage.
It's a good late round flyer guy to keep in your mind.
100%. Especially if Julio leaves.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it's a trade. If they get a player back, could be interesting.
I know we touched on it before, but like Calvin Ridley hasn't been great when Julio's gone.
No, let's say that as a throw-in piece when they do the Julio deal, they get like Nelson Aguilar. I'd probably like Aguilar more than Gage or something like that, but it's just interesting.
I don't even want to mock him to the Patriots right now. What about Logan Thomas, Washington football team?
Yeah, Logan was very solid last year. His talent doesn't excite me. I don't think they're going to check it down the same way they did with the new quarterback.
Here's the problem. Logan Thomas on this list is at in the 7th round, like going before.
Still too high.
Other guys that I'd rather have. Like I'd rather have Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I actually like Evan Ingram. He's a guy that in my mocks I've been taking a lot real late. But he just had, again, if you look back at his targets, I want to say he had like the 3rd or 4th most targets. They're coming from Daniel Jones, so they're trash. But hey, a lot of times those targets, there are a lot of mouths to feed there. But I still like Evan Ingram. He was, he had some drops, but
Gronkowski, trash or treasure?
Trash. He's just, they got O.J. Howard coming back. Cameron Brate they were using in the playoffs. Gronk showed up. He got those 2 touchdowns. If he hadn't got those, you'd be really kind of just not thinking about. But he's got the name, and he's fun to have. It's just fun. We talk. You get that warm, fuzzy feeling when you see Gronk on your roster.
If you look, if I had this same team 4 years ago, I'd be destroying.
So we talked about I wasn't a big fan of Goddard, but I'd take him, ahead of Gronk by a mile.
I would too. I'm not like super hyping Gronk. He's actually going. I hate Gronk at 8-12, honestly.
I hate the Buffalo Bills backfield right now. Zach Moss was a guy I had. I'd hoped he could become the guy and really take over, but no, it's kind of a 50-50 with him and Singletary, and neither one excites me. That's one of the reasons I actually still kind of like their passing offense because I don't think they're going to be running.
You know who I hate? Jamal Williams. Like, just ruining my boy Swift.
Yeah.
Like, even just the hype. Swift can't even get the hype right now because Jamal Williams is there.
They hate us because they ain't us. But now Jamal Williams, he should get play. Like, he should be usable certain weeks. And if anything happens to Swift, I think he takes over. What is the other guy? Jamar Jefferson was the rookie that they grabbed,
I think so.
6th roundish. So he's another one that people are kind of getting hyped
Marlon
on.
Mack for the same token. Like,
Marlon Mack, maybe here's Jonathan Taylor. He, the report was that he isn't in the OTAs right now because the injury is still. Those Achilles are hard to come back.
So
Achilles.
I don't have the report in front of me. I read it a long time ago, but basically the synopsis was Marlon Mack's gonna be terrible. Like the injury that he had at the age with his draft position, like everything combined. Basically, nobody's ever done it before. He would be an outlier if he was relevant.
I think we've talked about there was like one guy, and I forget who it even was, but
Adrian Peterson.
I thought Adrian was I know he tore the ACL and came back from it like historically quickly.
I'm pretty sure Adrian Peterson's like the only guy to come back. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but
Achilles again, much harder. The guys that come back don't tend to come back the same as the guys that come back from an ACL.
People are drafting Marlon Mack for sure, absolutely. I'm not.
No,
I wouldn't recommend
it,
but people will definitely take Marlon Mack.
You can just take the flyer late.
Peter in our fantasy league is trying to hype up Marlon Mack to me as he tries to trade for Jonathan Taylor. So, just onto that. Tanyan's
Stop
also
trying to make fetch happen.
down here at
It's
in
not
the
going to
12th round.
happen.
I'd rather have Tanyan above.
No, I'm out on Tanyan. I think that Tanyan, So
Even
we
if
talked
Rodgers is
about
there.
we talked about the touchdown regression, and he's one that even if Rodgers is there, I think his touchdown numbers are going to come down, and that's what really made him look good.
Okay. I hate Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, he's just, we've talked about it. We hate
Can
the
I hate
Eagles.
him already?
He's small. Let's just hate. Let it flow through you.
Is it too early? All right. I feel
No! God, please, no!
I feel
no!
like the chat is lacking.
No!
I feel like the chat is lacking in people that they hate.
Yeah, so you've
Get in
kind of
there.
heard. That's about covers the guys that I wanted to talk about. But let us know who you hate, and we'll see if we're on the same page.
I'll try and find some more. Damian Williams, just because Mike likes him, he's going to be nothing.
Damian Williams.
Don't even look at him.
I'm actually surprised how high he is on some of these
Christian
lists.
Kirk.
Christian
just
Kirk, someone
done.
tried to offer him to me in Dynasty, and I'm not excited about it. I just don't think he's
Just
going to
done.
be what you hope he could be.
Rashad Bateman on the Ravens.
Bateman, we hate his landing spot, but
ya.
he should be the best wide receiver on that team, whether that's worth anything or not. He'll be usable if you can get him real late, I think.
Right now, let's see here.
So if you're just going with the last pick in your draft, and you've like got your quarterback and your defense and your kicker, like maybe Bateman, if he's out there, is a guy you could throw on just to see it. Like,
That's it.
he could shock you and become AJ Brown because the talent is there, but I would put it at a low percentage chance. There are some people that believe in him.
Yeah, for sure. Hickomy or Grunk?
That's a good question. I take Higbee over Gronk, but when it's like Higbee and Evan Ingram are two guys that are kind of right there when you're getting late and you're trying to get a tight end, that's a toss-up that I'm still kind of on the fence. Higbee has shown some good talent and had some good production for fantasy when Everett wasn't there, the guy who went to the Seahawks.
Higbee or Hunter Henry?
Higbee.
I would agree. Higbee or Logan Thomas?
I'll go Higbee.
Okay. I just like the way you said that. I'll go Higbee.
I mean, it's happening. We're doing it. We're doing it live.
I agree.
Ah, the meatloaf!
I think we agree on this one. I think if you have been punting on tight end this whole time and you're just going to stream it, I think Higbee's an okay add to the roster as your like go-to guy to start the season.
Those are the guys I'm targeting late. Higbee, Evan
See,
Ingram.
Greg's got the right idea. I hate Miles Sanders. Miles
That's a good
Sanders is
answer.
trash.
Yeah, we've talked about the Eagles' backfield. They just added Kerryon Johnson. They added rookie Kenny Gainwell. I think Kenny Gainwell is going to be a bust. His 40 time wasn't good. His metrics aren't great. He has good hands, so maybe if they could work him into the passing game. Boston Scott, as of now, is still there, who is also a little scat back kind of guy. I'm looking at guys I need to drop in Dynasty. He's the top of the list right now.
Greg says, hate Melvin Gordon.
Melvin?
I'm scared of Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon, if you can get him at a value, I don't want him in Dynasty, but if you can get him and he can, for the first half of the year, kind of keep the job.
Right.
He was good last year when he got the opportunity.
Absolutely.
He
I'm
held off.
not fading the talent. I'm fading the situation.
Yeah. So the reason that we're worried about him is just they did draft what many people believe to be the third most talented running back in the class. Some people had him as the top as far as their rankings for running backs, but Javonte Williams, he comes in and he should push him for work.
Two wide receivers before LaVisca right now is Jerry Jeudy.
I like Jerry Jeudy. I think he had. We talk about the mark. You want to hit that. You know, is it 6 or 7? I've been working at 7. So Nick says if your rookie year, if you hit that 600-yard mark, that's a good sign that you will continue to produce.
At
Cortland Sutton comes
at
back.
least one wide receiver 2 season, I think, is like the qualifier.
So the chat says I hate Aaron Rodgers, not just for fantasy, just because of the person.
That's just a fact.
Here, let's see. I believe we have something for this.
You done messed up, Aaron!
So there you go.
I hate Tua.
Yeah, Tua, we'll see. This is the make or break year. I'm not all out on Tua. I'm not all in. It's like I want to see it.
I'm pretty much out.
If he doesn't do it this year, this is the year. So he's got new wide receiver that they took above Smith, and that is Waddle.
I hate.
Then he waddled away, waddle, till the very next day.
I'm kind of getting excited to see Waddle play.
Yeah, he is a guy that in so like kind of at that 6 or 7 spot. It's like, do you want to take your shot on Smith? A lot of people believe in him, but he is undersized. He goes to the Eagles, or do you want to go with Waddle? Because I think Waddle.
I shouldn't say this in here, but if in our dynasty, draft, if Waddle gets to like pick 1-8, like I'm probably trading up. I'm probably trying to get the pick and just taking a Waddle.
Yeah, I think that's a good target because Waddle could be the highest producing wide receiver that for fantasy this year out of the rookies.
Devontae Parker, I'm still not really scared of right now. I don't know. I hate Rivera for not sticking with Smith. Okay, if you keep starting Alex Smith and he breaks his leg again,
he just retires with all his money and his pretty wife, and he's fine.
I think that's probably
he's fine.
I think that's probably fair. Rapid fire. I hate Jimmy Garoppolo. I hate Zach Ertz.
So we need to qualify that we're getting down into the the 13th, 14th rounds.
Yeah. I hate Zach Wilson. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Zach Wilson. I'm in the same boat. I'm not a believer. I'd take all the other rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, there's some rough ones down here.
Ferkser, barely even know her.
Here's Russell Gage down here in the 14th round. I think that'll go.
Jalen Reagor.
So Jalen Reagor is down here in the tank at 14.
He is another one of those last pick in your draft. They took him in the first round, so he's got that draft capital. If Smith does bust, maybe Reagor's the number one on that team.
Trash.
I'll take a late shot on Reagor. He's another guy that's in that late bucket.
Yeah, and pretty much all these guys are people that I hate. But that's just because they're bad.
That's why they're at the bottom of the list.
Bad. All right, I think that's all I've pretty much got. I got prepared, and that's most people I hate. Anybody else in the chat got any last second
hate? Get it out. Let it out.
Dislike. You don't even have to say hate. Just strongly dislike.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can find another couple guys in here, but. Do we need to? So with the 600-yard thing, Gabriel Davis had 599.
Oh, pass. Hard pass.
It's a trap.
But he did have like 6 touchdowns called back.
Now, Gabriel Davis was the next guy. They did sign, Emmanuel Sanders?
You didn't know who he was yesterday. One more vote for
is that who we were talking about?
Yeah, Gabe Davis.
I got you. You called him Gabe. I need the Gabriel.
Yeah. You even said Gabriel Davis.
We're not on a nickname basis yet. We're not that cool.
What do you think about Harrison Bryant?
Who is Harrison Bryant? Harrison Bryant, tight end for the Browns. I've heard him as just a stash on your bench if you're in Dynasty. Probably not this year, maybe not next year, but down
I think I'm overdoing it, but
Trey Sermon. I like Trey Sermon also. I think that if you're deciding if you need a running back,
I hate how underrated Trey Sermon is.
I'm still on the line between Michael Carter and Trey Sermon because I think Michael Carter on the Jets will get the job pretty quickly. Trey Sermon, there might be some back and forth with Mostert. I know Mostert, if he stays healthy, they're just at least this year.
Trey Sermon after the draft was mocked at like 2.5 to like 2.9, and now he's creeping towards the first round. I've seen him taken at as early as like 1.8.
I feel like that's pretty common every year is just people start because again, running back is important. They're harder to find. You have a wider you can wait on a wide receiver.
But I think what's different here is for me at least it's really if I don't get one of the top 5 or 6 guys, I don't want anybody till Trey Sermon. If I don't get one of the top 3 running backs, Chase, Waddle, Pitts, like the top 6 guys. I don't want anybody else for a while. So
yeah, you wait on a guy like Gaskin or.
So I'm going to put Trey Sermon at 1.7. I'm just going to do it above Devonta Smith.
1.7.
I'm going to do it. You can't stop me. I'm doing it.
You're overreaching at that point.
I'm not saying that's where he should go, but I'm just saying if I had the 1.7 pick, I'd trade back if I could and get Trey Sermon at 2.1 or 2.4 or whatever it is.
Yeah, the question will just be how good is Trey Sermon? It's kind of like Josh Kelly on the Chargers last year.
But they're putting guys that were selling cars the day before in the roster, and they're putting up RB1 numbers.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really matter.
Those guys might be more talented than you realize.
I just got to believe that he's sturdier than these guys as a 4th round pick. Hate Tannehill, says Banjo.
Tannehill's actually produced pretty well for fantasy.
He's kind of like the comeback kid. He had some injuries. Miami trashed him.
Yeah.
He had to deal with what's his face.
You need to do well with your first part of the draft where you're getting the right running backs and wide receivers and have those guys stay healthy. But if you did and you punted and you got Tannehill, he can support.
If you have Tannehill, every week you're just looking to trade for a better quarterback. Even though he's not bad, every week you're like, oh man, I got to trade for a better quarterback.
There have been teams that have had Tannehill going deep against me in leagues.
I'm not saying he's not that. I'm just saying my mind every week, if he's in my roster, I'm like, holy.
He's got good consistency.
I have a terrible quarterback. I need somebody else.
And again, if he just throws it to AJ and AJ runs it in every time for a touchdown, that's helpful.
That team's going to be a lot worse this year. Hate Lamar for not throwing at Andrews as much. Here's the thing. I think he was trying to throw at him, but just nowhere near him.
Nah, he likes Andrews. That's kind of was the first read. We'll see. I'm curious to see how Bateman affects Andrews' production because, again, he's a good, bigger bodied guy. Should get some more of the red zone targets. I think it's going to hurt. Marquise Hollywood Brown will become even more boom bust than he was before because they had to force it to him because there was no other wide receivers. But they've had other wide receivers in the past that have had some hype, that have been people that have been discussed as having potential before the draft, and then they go to the Ravens, and they are nobody. Like Boykin, Prochet, and Duvernay. Three names that I can remember because people were hyping them up before they went to the Ravens.
Everybody. Greg says, Tannehill's taking me to the championship 2 years in a row. I'll keep drafting him until somebody stops me. I get it. Right? Again, I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just saying I feel like he's terrible. I just don't feel good about him leading my roster.
So
that's it.
Yep, you heard it. You heard it here first. Greg getting Tannehill in all our drafts.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one for show. For show. I'm getting that for show.
All right, so that's probably where we're going to leave it. Thanks to all of you who joined us live in the chat on Twitch. If you're finding us somewhere else, feel free to try and just Twitch account, free to make. You can hop in, search Fantasy Addicts,
and
Fantasy Football Addicts.
If you follow us on Twitch, then you'll get notified when we go live.
There you go.
That's a cool thing.
Yep. But if you're checking us out on YouTube, you can drop a follow there as well. And review if you are listening.
Sogo was trying to get Greg to stop by just saying, stop. Drafting Tannehill. Alrighty. Thanks for coming in. No Marcy and no Pocket tonight. What's the deal with that?
We'll have to get at them in the Discord. Tell them what they missed.
We'll
a great show. Another great show.
100%.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out.
Done.